Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 82 of the Run in the Paint podcast. I'm Miles. I'm here with Nick and Jackson. Guys, how are you doing today?
What's up, fellas? What's up, everybody? A full regular season worth of episodes. 82 episodes.
That's right. Almost a full year since we started. Jackson, how are you doing today?
I mean, like 50 more games than Embiid, so that's good.
always has to throw that type of dig in there. Well, today, no Joey, unfortunately. He's out working his butt off to work for the podcast. But today, the fourth of six preview episodes of our 30 key questions. We're going to go through questions 16 through 20 heading into the season, and there are definitely some spicy ones in here, so definitely stay tuned, including most overrated player, league's biggest villain. We're answering all the questions in today's episode. But before we get started, first, we have to take a look at the annual NBA.com GM survey. They do this every single season, and there are always interesting results. All 30 GMs take part in this survey. None are permitted to vote for their own team. So let's get into it. I'm going to go through some of the questions. We'll have you guys, Jackson and Nick, we'll have you guys kind of predict what the GM said, or maybe give your thoughts, and then we'll see what the GMs actually said over some of these questions.
I've already seen it.
Oh, you already saw it, Goglin? Oh, I don't know if you saw all these.
I saw the players at each position.
Yeah, the players at each position. So there's definitely more than that. There are a lot of questions.
I saw best defensive player too.
Yeah, there are definitely a lot of questions in this one. But the first one is, which team will win the NBA Finals this season?
Celtics.
Yes.
Yeah.
Boston Celtics got 83% of the votes. Only three teams received votes. Who are the other two teams, you guys think?
Only three?
Knicks,
so two.
Rockets.
I'm gonna say it's not the Knicks and the Rockets. After the Knicks and the Rockets, probably OKC, obviously.
Yes. And then 3% of the vote.
So one person.
One person voted for the Dallas Mavericks
Interesting.
to win the NBA Finals after going last season. Eastern Conference rankings, the total predictions, it has the Celtics at number 1, the Knicks and Sixers 1 percentage point separated between 2 and 3 for them. The Knicks at 2, Sixers at 3, then the Cavaliers at 4, Bucks 5, Magic 6, Pacers 7. And then in the Western Conference, the Thunder, by far number 1 team in the Western Conference. Then very tightly contested between the next several teams, the Timberwolves, Nuggets, Mavericks, Suns at 5, and then 1 vote for the Grizzlies, Pelicans, and the Warriors. And I know Nick's thinking good things of the Warriors this season.
I'm the only one.
Only
one on the panel. I gotta ride it out with the Golden State.
That is true. Well, getting into the player sort of things, the MVP. Who do you guys think the GMs predicted to win MVP this season?
I know. I saw it, so I won't answer yet.
I would say either Shea or Luka.
Yep, those are the top two guys, Shea and Luka. Shea getting 40%. Shea got 40%. Luka got 30%. Next one, if you were starting a franchise today and could sign any player in the NBA, who would it be?
There's only one answer. There's one answer. It's Vic.
Yep, Victor Wembanyama, 77% of the vote.
Who else got votes for that?
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was second, tied with Jokic, and then Luka Doncic got 3% of the vote. One person voted for Luka. Which player forces opposing coaches to make the most adjustments?
Probably Steph.
Steph's number
LeBron's
2.
got to be in there.
LeBron didn't get a vote. Steph was number 2. Number one's actually Luka.
Yeah.
33% of the vote.
You can't make an adjustment for him, though. I mean, he's going to get his.
Yeah,
he plays with grit, man. He plays with grit. He's born that way.
Yes, he does. Next question. Which player most likely to have a breakout season next year? Now, there are a lot of players that got votes. There might have been 30 different players that got votes for this.
I wonder what they define as breakout. I mean,
that's the thing. A lot of these players I feel like already broke out. The number 1 player got 13% of the vote. which
James
shows how
Harden.
many
No,
players were in this. Oh,
No.
goodness.
It's not him. Oh,
I gotta imagine LP got a couple votes.
thank you.
Yep, Şengün got a few votes, but number 1 is J-Dub out in OKC. Jalen Williams,
Yeah, he
definitely
already broke
potential.
out. I don't know.
Yeah, like a lot of these players, like Evan Mobley tied for 2, he could still break out, but Ja Morant, like, come on, there are
Is
so
he gonna
many
break
different
out of
players.
his suspension slump? Is that what I'm hearing?
I don't
Break out of them handcuffs.
know. Now the positional questions. The best point guard in the NBA.
I've already seen this. I know the answer.
Luka.
Yep, Luka
Shea.
Doncic. Best shooting guard.
Wait, they put Luka?
Yeah, Luka is number 1.
Might have been drunk when I was reading it. I'm just kidding. I don't drink.
They put
Drunk.
Donovan there or Jalen Brown?
Donovan
And-
Mitchell didn't get a vote,
Oh,
He was in.
which is crazy. Anthony Edwards. And it's because they also voted SGA, Steph Curry, and Luka as shooting guards, which is the thing that I get upset with.
Well, Book was second, right? I think Book had like
Booker was
20%.
second. Yeah, 23% of the vote.
so Doncic, Edwards, small forward.
Tatum.
Yeah, Tatum.
Yeah, Jason Tatum.
And I think Luka, LeBron, and KD were all tied at 17%, right?
Correct.
Power forward has to be Giannis.
Yep.
Yeah. He was at 77.
Who else got votes for power forward?
Kevin Durant had 7% of the votes, and then Anthony Davis, Draymond Green, Domantas Sabonis, Jason Tatum, and Wemby all received
You
votes.
talking about Kevin Durant?
And then center, is it just Vic and Jokic?
No, it's
Embiid-
Jokic and Embiid.
Jokic and Embiid, and then Wemby got 3%. Jokic 87% of the votes there. No one else got any votes, just those 3.
So Jokic blew Embiid out of the water in that.
Yep.
Yeah, no surprise there. He plays he plays basketball.
Yeah, I think there's a case when both are healthy, but of course the durability of Jokic, he's definitely number 1 there.
Amen.
Going to off-season related questions, off-season moves. Which team made the best overall moves this offseason? This was a pretty close one.
I'd have to say the Thunder.
You have OKC number 1, 4% ahead of the Sixers, and then the Knicks at 3.
Yeah.
Which
Fair.
one player acquisition will make the biggest impact?
Paul George is
Probably
Philly.
Cat.
Paul George, 60%. And then McHale and Towns tied for 13%. The most underrated player acquisition.
Tyus Jones of Phoenix.
Tyus
Hartenstein.
Jones tied for 3rd.
Hartenstein.
Tied for third with Jones.
What about Denny to Portland?
Didn't get a vote, interestingly enough. Number 1 is Alex Caruso to OKC, getting 23%. Caldwell Pope is number 2, 17%. Him going to the Magic. Which team will be most improved this season?
Orlando.
I think this is just going based off records last season, because 67% goes to the Memphis Grizzlies.
Yeah.
The most surprising move of the offseason.
Well, for the GMs, it was probably Cat.
Yes. not for us on this podcast. We all knew that this was coming.
For those dumbed down GMs of NBA franchises, they had no idea.
No, that's right.
Freaking idiots. Don't know anything about ball.
Rookie of the year this season.
I mean, it's got to be Zach, right?
So he got 30%. 50% of the vote went to Reed Shepherd of the Houston Rockets. And
that's my banner. That's the banner I needed right there.
He was also the number 1 player as far as which rookie will be the best player in 5 years, which is something that we talked about on this podcast a little bit before about what player could have the best career. He's number 1. Stephon Castle, number 2. Reese O'Shea, 3. And then the 2 Wizards, Carrington and Sarr, are tied for 4th. Which rookie was the biggest steal at where he was selected in the draft?
Carrington or Devin
Buzelis, not actually. There are 6 players tied for number 1. Buzelis is not
Carter
one
from
of them.
Sacktown.
Yeah, there's a bunch. There's Carrington, there's
It's
Carter,
Bronny James.
Johnny Furphy, Dalton Connect, Terrence Shannon Jr., and Nikola Topic, who we won't see this season for the Thunder.
Bronny's gonna be the best player in this draft.
Let's see. What other questions? Oh, coach questions. The best head coach in the NBA.
Holstra.
So
Eric Spoelstra, 69% of the vote.
Nice.
Which head coach is the best manager / motivator of people?
Missoula.
Missoula's
That's a good
tied for
answer.
3. This one's also Spoelstra. Steve Kerr is number 2. I think those are decent answers for that one.
Idiot.
Oh, jeez.
Steve Kerr is not an idiot.
Which head coach makes the best in-game adjustments?
Tibbs?
Definitely not
Tibbs.
Bickerstaff.
Tibbs did not receive a vote. Neither did JB Bickerstaff.
Is it Popovich?
Nope. Tehran Lou, who, according to Joey's going to get fired.
He's gonna be fired by Christmas. Because my name's Joey.
Which head coach runs the best offense?
I mean, probably Mike Brown or Rick Carlisle.
Rick Carlisle, number 1, 47%.
Yeah.
Which head coach has the best defensive schemes? This was very, very close.
Tibby.
He's tied for 2 at 20%. Number 1 has 23%.
Missoula in there?
Is it Marky D?
People still Spoelstra still have Eric Spoelstra number 1 for most defensive or best defensive schemes.
Kind of getting out of hand, people.
Which new or relocated head coach will make the biggest impact on his new team?
The guy in Charlotte.
Kenny Atkinson.
Kenny Atkinson's tied for 2. Charles Lee is tied for 4th. Number 1 is Jackson's prediction for Coach of the Year, Mike Budenholzer.
I forgot he's a new coach.
Yeah. Because he's just relocated.
He's an old guy.
Final one we'll go over. Which active player will make the best head coach someday?
CP3.
Yep, Chris Paul at 30%.
Even though realistically it's Braun, but it's okay.
Who else got votes?
A lot of guys, but in the top 5, there was Garrett Temple. He's a player that's always in the ranking for this, the veteran. Mike Conley, TJ McConnell, and Fred VanVleet.
Wow. All point guards.
Essentially. No bigs. The only
Rockets
big
point
man
guards
that
mentioned twice. Let's go, baby.
The only big man that got a vote was Al Horford.
I can see that. What about was Eric Gordon on that list or no?
Eric Gordon was not on the list.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know him, so.
Yeah, exactly. Coach Cove meeting Coach Cove is the only true way to know, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna get there before any of those guys, anyways.
Oh, that's right. Exactly. That's definitely the plan.
Well, I get to come watch you, Coach, for free.
Oh,
like on the sideline? Why not?
That's not how it works, Goglin.
This is why your predictions suck.
You know, there's more to this podcast than just making predictions.
No, there's not. Not for me.
That does explain a lot if you're new here and haven't met Jackson before.
You can just stay in your lane then, JG.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, let's get into the 5 key questions for this episode. 2 episodes after this remaining till we get to the regular season, and still a whole lot to uncover about the upcoming season. So the very first question, this is a question that could definitely get us in trouble on here. It's question number 16. The most overrated player in the NBA. Jackson, why don't you get us started with this one?
He was recently traded from a team I like to another team I like. It's Julius Randle.
Not a shocker.
I mean, listen, I've seen people saying that, like, he's near the same level as Cat, and he's just not. Like, in terms of the deal, he's just not. And I think he doesn't play defense. At least every time I've watched Knicks game, which I watched every single Knicks game last year. I don't think he can be a number 2 on a championship team, and I think people say a lot that he can be a good number 2 on a championship team. Like, I don't know. I've never liked Julius Randle. I don't like the way he plays. I don't think he's worth what he was given up for, and I don't know. I think he's overrated. I don't think he should be anywhere near top. Or he should be near, but not like he should not be below, or he should not be top 45, if that makes sense. And I think a lot of people say he's top 45.
Interesting. I mean, Julius Randle, he's definitely a player that I don't like the way he plays because it is just so strictly based off of making tough shots, and I don't think he's that great of a shooter. But the last couple seasons, it's hard to argue with 3 All-Star appearances, 2 All-NBA appearances, couple times leading top teams in the league, was able to impact winning a little bit last season before he got injured. And I think the Towns Randle comparison was they're both number 2 players on teams that are looking to compete for championships. And when you look at the numbers, we looked at them after the trade. Randle did have better numbers besides the shooting. So when you look at it, they both have questions defensively. Towns is just the more efficient basketball player. Randle may be the better playmaker. I think they're both similar basketball players. I like Towns' game a lot more than Randle. And, I think that's just how it is with Randle.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. Randall's I don't know about him being a number 2 on a championship level team, but he's, like Miles said, he's shown the ability to lead like a playoff team before. So yeah, my guy for this one though, most overrated player, was a guy who was also pretty dependent on hitting tough shots, and that's Cam Thomas. Shoots like 20 shots a night. His 2-point percentage is below 50% for the last 2 years. I mean, that's not great, especially when your 3-point percentage is well below the 40% mark. It was only at 36% last year. And I just think for a guy who relies on a lot of tough shot making, like Miles, you just said it with Julius, he's just not that great of a. He's not as efficient as I think a lot of people give him credit for. Like, yeah, he's good in a box and a phone booth where like you can go one-on-one. He can score on almost anybody probably and just rise up and hit a tough shot or get past him and get a blow by to the rim. But that's not, winning basketball. That's like one-on-one stuff.
Yeah, Cam Thomas is one of those players that it's kind of tough to gauge his impact on the game because he is so much of just isolation scorer, can make really difficult shots. And he takes a lot of tough shots. That's why the percentages aren't super high. He just hasn't really been on a team where they've been able to really utilize those skills yet to winning a whole lot. Then it'll be the same thing this season. We'll get to see him take a lot more tough shots, see how he is as the sole offensive threat on a rebuilding team. So that'll definitely be interesting to watch. But overrated player, I could see what you mean from the sense that some people are like, he's going to put up 28, 30 points per game because he's the only one in Brooklyn. I don't think that's the case. But I still, he's still a decent player, just not a super great one yet. Definitely a one-dimensional guy.
Yeah, he's very one-dimensional, and it's almost like a knockoff, like a Goodwill Kyrie, because you have to let him do his thing in ISO and kind of rely and be dependent upon his ability to get past guys and make things happen for other people. But then when, his level of play is just not on the same level as Kyrie Irving, obviously, but he plays the same style of game, and you have to surround him with 4 other guys who can shoot. Like, that's the formula for Cam Thomas to be really good. He could be like the number 1 option on a team, but that team's not going to be very good because you're going to have to rely on him and have 4 other shooters around him. And like I said, he's just not on that Kyrie Irving level, but he kind of plays a similar style of like, that's how he's going to attack the game. That's where he's going to make his aggressive moves.
I think his value eventually on a winning team will be in that Jamal Crawford 6th man type role where he just comes in, gets you buckets. I don't think he'll ever be a top guy on a winning team, but who knows? You never know what could happen. I mean, that's the great thing about being on a team like he's on right now. He's going to learn a whole lot about being that, number 1 option. He was kind of that last season a little bit. On a team that may not get a whole lot of wins, but getting the experience as a number 1 option going forward could definitely be useful going forward. For me, this was a super tough one because I don't ever like dislike any NBA players really. I'm a fan of most of their games. But most overrated player, I've said it before on this podcast, I decided to go with Jimmy Butler just
I
because
like
he's
that
a
answer.
player that I feel like we've started to see it a little bit more this offseason where fans and the media are starting to like say things like he needs to play better in the regular season. He shouldn't just get passes in the regular season because of what he does in the playoffs. Because we saw how it cost the Heat really in the long run last season, and Butler ended up getting injured in the play-in tournament. I think Butler is a great player. I think he's going to be in for a great season this year. That's why I have the Heat higher than the rest of us did in the predictions. Because I think Jimmy Butler will play to that level. He'll play a lot better in the regular season than he has in the past. But just based off of regular season and a lot of people kind of just letting him be in the regular season, that's why I have Jimmy Butler. It's kind of similar to what I thought of Anthony Davis a little bit. I feel like Anthony Davis was kind of a similar in the similar vein, but he's been performing amazingly the last couple seasons. So now
Yeah,
Jimmy
now we
Butler
know
is kind of in that place.
Yeah, and AD's been healthy, which has been nice.
Yes, definitely plays hand in hand. Joey's
Yeah.
play. I do have Joey's answers for all this. His answer for this was George Niang because he hates George Niang going with a role player. But he's another guy.
Like,
He
it is
isn't really
fine.
super. He doesn't like to harp on players like that either. We know all those players have gotten to that position. Overrated is definitely a tough question.
Yeah.
Not an easy one. Besides for Jackson Godwin, I'm sure there were a couple names he had in mind for this.
Not really.
Well, you did have you had Embiid on first.
Yeah, and then you talked to me about it. Because I rank him like 6th in the league, and you were like,
Talked
that's where
him
most
off.
people have him.
Talked him off the ledge.
Yeah, because where he rated him is basically where I'm pretty sure we would all rate him. But moving on to the next question, number 17. An under the radar team you will be watching this season. Could be another type of league pass team type question, low key team. I'll get started with this one. I have a couple different teams, a few that I have been talking about. I've talked a lot about the Charlotte Hornets, who I'm interested in watching. The Blazers, I sneakily like their roster. But my answer is going to be a team that we're probably going to talk about a lot this season because of one of our fellow co-hosts, and it is the Houston Rockets. I am excited for Houston Rockets basketball. I'm very excited for Houston Rockets basketball. Just a lot of all-around solid, talented players that can do a lot of different things. And in a tight Western Conference, there's definitely a world for them to fit in somewhere in the standings. Because it's so tight, I didn't have them making the playoffs or anything. I have them barely making the play-in. But I would not be surprised one bit if they made it higher because it's going to be fun to watch Rockets basketball this season.
Oh,
Yeah. Let me jump in here because I also have the Rockets for my under the radar team. I am very interested in the Rockets season this year. I had them at 12 in the West. That was a tough one for me. They could be anywhere between 6 and 12 in reality in my mind. And that's one of the reasons I have them on here is because I do have a lot of faith that they could secure like a playoff spot. Like they could be a top 6 seed with the roster that they have. I really like Steven Adams coming off the bench. I think him and Cam Whitmore are going to be solid in that second unit, leading those younger guys like Reed Shepard and Amon Thompson. They just have a lot of depth in every position. And Steven Adams and Jeff Green are like, and Fred VanVleet for that matter, are legit vet guys who have done it before and who have been there, along with Dylan Brooks. Like they got a pretty complete roster from top to bottom of young guys, vets, second unit. So yeah, coaching. Yeah, Houston is my under the radar team.
Jackson, you want to say anything about your Houston Rockets?
just like those answers, like everything you all said. They're obviously my team as well. Well, one of my teams. Miles knows I'm known for watching the under the radar teams. On League Pass specifically. Last year and this year, I'm gonna watch the Wizards a lot. I'm gonna watch the Hornets a lot because I like what they're doing over there. I like Brandon Miller and all them. Like Miles said, the Blazers, and yeah, I mean, obviously the Spurs too. Spurs. Everyone's been watching the Spurs, but yeah, I mean, I like. Obviously, Houston was my first pick, but I didn't want to say that because I didn't want to be biased. Obviously, I could be, but I've been excited since the end of the year last year to see what this team can do. I think, like Nick said, Cam Whitmore is going to be a huge part off the bench alongside Reed Shepard and Ben Thompson. They're all under, I believe, 23 years old, all three of those, and even Alp's only, I think, 20, right?
Yes,
Miles,
definitely
he's
still
like,
very young.
he's 22. I think Jalen Green's 22, 23. But we like Nick said, the veterans is what's gonna kind of hold this team together, kind of like Jeff Green did last year, except we got Steven Adams, so I think it's a better piece to kind of help develop Alp because that's something Alp needed to work on was his toughness with screen setting, with defense, with everything, and I think Steven Adams is the perfect guy for that. And I think it's gonna help Jabari too, because Jabari is another big, strong, big man that needed help with all that. Because
So who's your team,
he's not
Jackson? I
exactly
don't think you ever answered.
what? Oh, my team. Well, I mean, I said the Hornets just because I think they're as low key as it get. I think low key sneaky. I think it's them and the Rockets in each conference. So it's kind of like
Yeah.
sneaky. But I
Yeah.
mean, I'm gonna like watching. I'm gonna be watching a lot of the lower teams, like the Pistons, like the Raptors, like all those lower teams. Miles knows I love watching the mediocre games for some odd reason. I flock to it.
You watch mid teams because you're a mid player fan podcaster.
Indeed. Who's your favorite team? I've heard you talk more smack about the Cavs than anyone I've ever seen. So who is your team?
The Cavs.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I will say
Yeah,
real
right.
fans are truthful about their team or hard on them in, well, certain moments.
Listen. I could be hard on my team, but they've suffered enough. So
Definitely fair enough. Rockets definitely on the come up. Pistons are a low key team for me. I'm actually excited to watch them play this upcoming season.
I am too. Now that I mentioned them, I'm like I'm excited to see Cade, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, and this new coaching and everything. Because I think they were fine offensively last year. Because they got the bucket getters, they needed help on the defensive end.
Oh, for
You
sure.
got Asar Thompson. Asar Thompson's going to be low-key defensive player of the year candidate under his new regime of defensive coach.
Wow. Interesting. Now talk about a hot take right there.
I said a low-key candidate. Will you calm yourself?
A low key. That means if he gets a vote, for defensive player of the year, then that'll count as a win. That'll count as a win.
I agree. It's
All right. So going back to the other way here, talk about teams that may be coming up this season. Going to the complete opposite with number 18, which team will take the biggest step back this season? Nick, you get started with this one.
Yeah, I got the GFF, the Garbage Fire franchise, Brooklyn Nets here. Not too hard of a pick, considering the fact that they won 32 games last year and they're projected to win like almost 20 less than that this year. It's not often you get to see a double-digit leap in win total, losses or wins from season to season. Like, it's pretty irregular if that happens, where a team like will win 35 games and then if they win 50 the next year, like that's a pretty significant thing. Or if they only win 20 the year after, that's pretty significant. Usually it's within single digits. This has the chance. I mean, it's not going to be triple digits only because we can't play that many games. But if you gave the Nets 100 games, they would find a way, I think, to lose triple digit games because they're literally projected to win like 12 or 13 games this year, which is almost 20 less than their win total from last year.
Yeah, the Nets and Wizards down there, those are two teams that I would be very surprised if they won 20 games this season.
Yeah, Jordan Poole, man.
If the Wizard, I think it's a win for the Wizards if they win 18 games. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, I don't hate that.
But no, the Brooklyn Nets, if we're going off the record and losses of games, which is definitely one of the ways to do it, they're probably the prime answer because they were a team that was, I believe, 11th or 12th in the East. They're definitely going to be you would think 14th or 15th at the very bottom. Definitely one of the two probable teams to pick for this. Jackson, I'm guessing you have the other team for this.
Yeah, especially with the recent news that just came out today about Mr. Kawhi Leonard and the fact that he hasn't even practiced and nobody knows what he's gonna where he's gonna be at health wise for the beginning of the season. If he doesn't play the start of the season and they start off bad, why would they play him later? You know what I mean? Like I feel like he's just not gonna play much at all. So I think, yeah, they're just looking at this team. If he doesn't play, it's gonna be rough. And I think going from a 4th seed, I have them going all the way down to the 12th seed. And I think that is an astronomical jump, but in the wrong direction. I think it's like they're falling down instead. Like they try to jump up, but they tripped on the way up and hit their face.
It's definitely a way that's definitely a way you could think about this. I mean, to start the season, I'm excited for the start of the Clippers season for two main reasons. We've already talked about the Intuit Dome. That building is going to be crazy to watch basketball games. It's just ridiculous. But I am excited to see the old man bearded James Harden at the start of the season because it is going to be his team to start the season. He's going to have the chance to put up numbers, make his teammates better. We'll see how he can do with that at this stage of his career. But exactly, for a team that was 4th in the West that year to potentially fall out of the play and not even make it, it's definitely possible.
Let me ask you guys this. What do you think the Clippers' record will be through their first 6 games? All right, they play the Suns twice in their first 5 games. Then they got the Nuggets, the Warriors, the Blazers, and the Thunder. That's their first 6 games. Suns twice, Nuggets, Warriors, Blazers, Thunder.
I go 3-3 at best, 2-4. I'd go 2-4, 3-3.
Is there any chance that they're 0-6?
Blazers. They lose to the Blazers, or they beat the Blazers and the Jazz. You said the Jazz, right?
No, the Warriors. The Warriors and the Blazers are the 2 worst teams.
No, I think Steph will be playing. So I think it'll be a 1-5.
Any chance they're 0-6? I mean, yeah. I mean, those are tough teams to play against. But I don't think so. I think they're going to honestly beat the Suns in one of those games. It's going to be a crazy. This is a team with the Clippers that with Ty Lue, their players are going to be playing super hard. They're going to be in a ton of close games. It just depends on if they have the closers, or players to close it out. If James Harden can do it at the end of games, first 6 games, if they are 2-4 or 3-3 through 6 games, I honestly take that as a win because that's a tough start to the schedule. Absolutely,
I think they could easily be 1-5 or 0-6 though.
They definitely could. Imagine if that happened, 0-6 after moving into a big arena. That would definitely be tough. And then it would bolster Joey's Tyronn Lue being fired take. Maybe he's fired before Halloween.
Maybe he's fired after the first 6 games. Yeah, that's crazy.
Imagine. But I took a different route with this question because Clippers and Nets, those are the two obvious choices for this. So I kind of went based off of a team that made it pretty far in the playoffs to a team I think next year probably not getting as far. And I'm going with the Indiana Pacers.
Yeah.
Not for any reason bigger than I think a lot broke right for them last year and they took advantage. I just think the East is so much more competitive. I have them as the 8th seed in the play-in. I just don't think this is an Eastern Conference final material team. And it's not bad. I mean, they're deep. They've got a lot of solid, young players. But I just think as far as playoff wise, I do not see Eastern Conference Finals material with this team. And if playoff wise, I think that's a step back to go from a conference final to potentially missing the playoffs, first round exit material. So
agreed.
Yeah, I don't even know if they'll make the playoffs. I mean, it's not guaranteed. They're screaming play-in to me.
Yeah, it's definitely not guaranteed.
Well, they were in the play-in last year.
No, they weren't.
No, they were the 6th seed. They're the 6th seed.
I thought they were 7. My bad.
No worries.
But no, there are some people that have the Pacers like, man, maybe they could be a third, fourth, or fifth seed. I just don't see that happening.
I don't see it.
But maybe the playoff
I could
experience
see them
does
starting off
bolster it.
hot.
I could see them starting off as well, kind of like they did last year. I think their fate this season kind of depends on if Tyrese Halliburton can get back to that aggressive first half of the year, Tyrese Halliburton that we got last year, and if he can
Before he almost
hold
tore his
through the
groin
season.
in half.
I guess pre-in-season tournament, Indiana Pacers.
No, pre almost tearing his groin in half, Tyrese Halliburton Pacers.
Oh, true. Right.
Because they were rolling before that.
They were going crazy. Still,
But I think even if
offense.
Tyrese isn't that top guy, they have Pascal now, and I think Pascal is gonna be comfortable. So I'm not as worried about this team as I would have been if they didn't have Pascal, obviously. But yeah, I think they're gonna be a fun team to watch. They're gonna be a good offense. So yeah.
Yeah, they're still going to be super fun to watch.
Yeah.
Question number 19, our award prediction for this episode. The sixth man of the year, as we lose Nick momentarily. He'll probably be back in a little bit. Jackson, you go started with your sixth man of the year prediction.
This one's a shot in the dark because he's not necessarily a six man just yet. But I think after a couple games, I think his new head coach is going to make the right decision from the number 2 seed and finals team out of the West. I have Bradley Beal. This is one. It's like very situational. I think I feel like he's got to come off the bench, right? Just for spacing purposes, just for size. But I think Bradley Beal is going to be the sixth man of the year because I think he's going to come off the bench. And I think he's going to give you a good 18 and like probably 4 and 5 off the bench on good splits. And I think he's going to play a lot too because they're going to try and preserve him, bringing him off the bench. I think he'll start at the beginning of the year, but after a bit, I think it's going to change, and I think he's going to come off the bench. And
yeah, this is a take that I think I started with, and then Jackson, we've both made this take. Right when they got Tyus Jones, looking at their roster, there just doesn't seem to be a whole lot of room for all those guys in the same starting lineup, all players that do need the basketball to really be effective on the offensive end. Now, so far, I mean, preseason's preseason. You can take however much, you want out of preseason. They've been moving the ball very, very well. Offensively, they looked fantastic. But I do think that Bradley Beal will be the guy to come off the bench if the Suns get off to a rough start. And he would be by far the best bench player. There's another player that I think can also kind of fit that mold, not who I have for sixth man of the year, but a player I was thinking about, and that's CJ McCollum from the Pelicans, a team that has another boatload of ball handlers. And I think if they want CJ or someone to come off the bench to lead the second unit, I think CJ would be the guy, and he'd be an amazing sixth man. He would be the Lou Williams, a guy that just can come off, pop off for 25 and 5 a game, great shooting, make his team better. That'd be crazy if CJ McCollum came off the bench. And you never know. Willie Green is willing to try things. It came out today as we're recording this that they're going to start Herb Jones, and he's basically going to be their starting 5. Wow. Just came out today because he can defend the 5. So he's going to be willing to try a bunch of different things. I'm a little worried about the Pelicans now because they're just going to be throwing different lineups out there.
I don't know who Willie Green thinks he is. He is not Mike D'Antoni.
I don't think there's.
We'll find out.
Okay.
We'll find out soon if he's actually going to do that or not.
What an idiot. Who does he think he is?
But my actual pick for sixth man of the year is going to be Bobby Portis from the Milwaukee Bucks, a guy who's gonna score a lot, he's gonna rebound a lot, a guy who could be up for this award really every season, if healthy. With Brook Lopez getting older, up there in age, he might be declining a little bit. I think his minutes are going to decrease a little bit, especially throughout the regular season. And Bobby Portis just so comfortable on that bench role. He's going to get a lot of minutes. I could definitely see a 16.8 rebound season for Bobby Portis, which on a successful Bucks team potentially could get him the sixth man of the year.
Yeah, so
like
my pick for this one also was on the Suns, ironically, and it was Grayson Allen. But after hearing you guys kind of take that argument apart, I think that Beal is going to move to the bench because Grayson Allen's a perfect guy to throw into that lineup to replace him and just have him catch and shoot in the corner, stand there next to Jones and KD and Booker, and he doesn't necessarily have to handle the ball as much. So I do think it'll fall that way for Phoenix, probably sooner than later. So I'm going to switch my pick and go with DiVincenzo as my sixth man of the year because, well, I mean, Naz Reid just won it out there in Minnesota last year, and he is now a starter. So there's going to be more bench minutes for guys in Timberwolves uniforms, and there's not many players to fill those minutes right now, other than like Nikhil Alexander-Walker and the two rookies that, and at least in the guard positions that DiVincenzo plays, the two rookies that they drafted, Rob Dillingham and Terrence Shannon. DiVincenzo is obviously going to be above all three of those guys, and I think he's going to do really well playing alongside Ant Edwards when he has a chance to.
Yeah, Devo's
Julius just
definitely a
looks so
nice player for this award. What were you saying, Jackson?
Julius looks stupid.
Well, yeah. Well, Julius will start. I mean, the Timberwolves will have a loaded bench this season. Absolutely with Reed.
Oh, is Naz Reid still on the bench then?
Yes.
My bad.
So they'll all be there together.
So is Malik Monk supposed to start then? Because I feel like he's another guy we could have definitely chosen for this.
Malik Monk was Joey's prediction for sixth man of the year.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I like that. If he played, because I think he wanted his contract so he could play, so he could start, right? Like,
that's what
he
we
wanted
all
to go
thought.
somewhere that he could start.
That's what we all kind of thought he was gonna do, but he stayed there to be, a sixth man type player, keep that role there in Sacramento, and I think that's a great prediction. I personally thought he should have won the award last season.
I agree.
Him potentially, getting it next year, I think it's definitely a great pick for that. But this is an award that always has a ton of potential players that could win it. There are a lot of guys that could put up a lot of numbers. Guy who always puts up a lot of numbers, scoring, rebound, and assisting is Karis LeVert in Cleveland. He can put up like 14, 4, and 5 off the bench. Those are always pretty solid numbers.
Yeah, and I think that's like all good picks, honestly. I think if Beal doesn't come off the bench at any point, I think it will be Malik Monk. I think that's just like he's the next best guy. I think, like you said, he should have won it last year. I mean, I'm not mad that Naz Reid won it last year because I like the Timberwolves a lot. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and he'll be a guy that could be in play to have the most minutes played among bench players, considering the closing lineup that the Kings could have out there if they want all offense out there. You have Fox, Monk, DeRozan, Murray, and Sabonis. Huge lineup out there that could score a bunch of points defensively. Definitely questions why that's probably why he is not going to start for this team.
I mean, Monk's a pretty decent defender, though. Like, he's definitely one of their better defenders. I mean, Keaton Ellis is probably better. But Monk's not a bad defender by any means. He's not the worst.
Yeah, definitely a crazy athlete, which definitely helps him out on that end of the floor as well.
For sure. It's like Ant. Ant uses his athleticism a lot. He's just obviously not Ant's way better on defense. Not saying he's on Ant's level, but
yeah. Absolutely. Final question for today's episode. Question number 20. Who is the NBA's biggest villain out there? Another fun question. We're coming up on Halloween, so we had to bring this question out here.
Ridiculous.
Let's see. Jackson, you start us off here. Who is the league's biggest villain?
It's not even a question. It's Draymond Green. Like, I know Dylan Brooks is going to be a popular answer here, but it's not. Like, this isn't even me being biased. It's Draymond Green. The amount of, like, Draymond's just always trying to do something that pisses everyone off. Like, yeah, Dylan will kind of be a menace. He paints himself as Dylan the villain. But at the end of the day, he's not going out and fighting people every game like Draymond is. Draymond's getting suspended. He's getting, like, a bunch of backlash because he's going out there and he's literally just throwing people to the ground, throwing elbows, like stepping on people's chests, kicking people in the nuts. It's Draymond. Like, I don't understand how anyone could say it's not Draymond. I get Dylan posts himself as the villain, but That's that's a moniker he chooses. It's not how he actually acts.
Well, yeah.
So
So I think going into last season, the answer would have been Dylan Brooks because of how the last year in Memphis went. But seeing what happened with Draymond Green and all the suspensions, he's definitely I would have him as the number one answer. But I knew that someone was going to bring that answer. So I brought a different guy. But Nick, I'm interested to hear who you have for this as well.
Okay, so this was a tough one for me. I don't think the league has really had like a clear-cut true villain in a long time, like since LeBron in Miami type thing. Like that's the last time I think there was a really of a villain on like a high caliber level. Like
Maybe
that is
Durant when he went to the Warriors
yeah,
for
but
that year or
still
two. But no,
the level of
LeBron.
hate is what I'm talking about. Like
Yeah.
I need to see people hating hard for me to consider someone a villain. Like I don't even know. Like Dylan Brooks, yeah, he's definitely a villain. Because people hate hard on him. But this guy that I'm gonna name, I don't think I would have put him in this spot had it not been for all the success that he had last year, and the fact that he'd made the finals last year. And so I have the token Euro bucket getter who can't keep his mouth shut, who doesn't play defense. So I got Luka. For those reasons, because he can't keep his mouth shut. He's always talking to the refs. He's got something to say
don't mind
to
that pick.
any member of the media who tries to just go at him or like try and understand something about his game or get in his mind. He's always got something not nasty always to say, but something that is not derogatory, not defamatory, but it's just not in a good light all the time. And I just think that his attitude is
It's like
bad.
an evil.
Yeah, he's an evil villain a little bit.
I like that answer. Not too
That
mild
was-
that for
But
sure.
had he not been in the finals last year, I don't think I would have put him in this spot.
That was my answer as well. I had Luka
Ooh.
as my biggest villain.
I
poor
bet.
baby.
Yeah, I mean, you basically said it. The finals definitely hurt him in my book a little bit. He's definitely become a player that does when he's one of the foul baiters in the league, and when he doesn't get the call, he is a bit of a whiner sometimes.
He's like Trae Young.
I mean, he'll be in the back court having a conversation with, whoever's wearing stripes that day, and
Look,
there's
he's-
9 other guys on the other end of the court.
Exactly. He's one of the few players that hurts his team because of that stuff. Like Russell Westbrook was a guy that was kind of like that before, but I've always been a kind of a guy that did like Russell Westbrook, regardless of all that stuff. Luka, it's starting to really get on my nerves, or it did in the finals, and he just has to play a lot better, especially defensively. He just has to be serviceable because there's a guy that I always look at is Steph Curry, a guy that, size-wise, at least earlier in his career, did not have the size, did not have the strength defensively. But in the last several seasons, of his prime and then, up to now, he is a capable defensive player because he gives the effort. He tries on that end of the floor, and it helps his team out tremendously, at least when they were contending for championships and all that. Luka, if he continues to play the way he did last season and in last year's playoffs, this Mavericks team is not going to win a championship if he plays like this. I think he has to change it. And I just don't like the way he's going about it, especially with how slow-mo he plays offensively, as well. It does look very smooth, but he plays the same way defensively. Like he plays the exact same way defensively, not moving at the right speed.
Yeah,
letting
hesitating
guys
on
blow past
offense.
him.
Hesitating on offense keeps your defender off balance, but hesitating on defense just means you're going the wrong way and you don't know what's happening.
Yes. So Luka just has to play a lot better to me.
Just means you got beat.
Who's Joey's pick?
His pick was Dylan Brooks.
He's such a stupid.
Wow, we're
moron.
such a well-rounded panel here. Honestly.
We have all the top answers. I mean, Goggle, you could even say in the top 3. I think those 3 would be the
He's
top
in the
3.
top 3, but
So
I think Luka and Dre are better picks.
I would put Joel Embiid in there too.
Joel
Amen,
Embiid,
brother. Amen.
Yeah, people hate
Beautiful
him.
answer.
Like Jackson dislikes
Beautiful.
the heck out of him.
I think
don't
Joel
like
is-
it.
I don't think he's as much
a
of a
troll.
villain because he really does have a good personality. I really like listening to him talk. I
Bravo.
like the way that he talks about the game. I like the way he talks about his teammates. I like the way he talks. But he's a dirty player when he's on the court.
Yes. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Besides the dirty stuff has been showcased the last couple of years. Beside that, I like the way he
Please,
plays.
smack him.
So I don't find him as much of a villain, but with the dirty plays, he's definitely a player that's a candidate for this. I mean, we saw him
He
getting
plays like a
booed during
loser.
the Olympics. It was insane.
Yep, the French hate him.
Yeah, they definitely did in the Olympics. But
The French hate
that is,
Jackson too.
Good. Haters bring you fuel.
Miles goes,
I guess so. Well, let us know in the comments your answers to these questions. Definitely some more controversial ones. Who you think the most overrated player
Yeah.
is, the biggest villain,
James.
but also under the radar teams you'll be watching. Teams taking a big step back in our 6th man of the year. Only 2 more episodes to go until the regular season is finally here. And again, we're saving the 10 most interesting questions for these last 2 episodes. So definitely stay tuned for that. You guys have anything else before we get out of here?
No.
All right. Well, thank you,
Stay
Jackson.
classy, San Diego.
Well, thank you guys so much for watching. If you
What is
enjoyed,
not
leave a
another
like,
reference?
subscribe for more NBA content. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll catch you in the next one.
go Guardians.